What if I told you that behind one of America's most beloved sitcoms hid stories of bitter divorces, legal betrayals, secret health battles, sons dying before their fathers, and stars who lost everything they helped build? Mama's Family made us laugh for 7 years, but what happened behind those cameras would break your heart. Stay with me because some of these stories you genuinely won't see coming. Vicki Lawrence as Thelma Mama Harper. Born on March 26, 1949 in Inglewood, California, and just 34 years old when the show began, Vicki Lawrence didn't walk into Hollywood through the usual doors. She wrote a fan letter to Carol Burnett as an 18-year-old saying people always told her she looked just like her. Carol showed up to watch her perform at a local beauty contest and hired her on the spot. A fan letter changed everything. On screen, she played Mama, the sharp-tongued, iron-willed grandmother who ruled her household with an iron fist.
Let's just move him back the number of spaces that I moved him forward.
She's right. How many spaces did you move it?
Well, how the hell should I know?
Audiences saw a fierce old woman. What they didn't see was that the woman playing her was barely out of her teens and quietly carrying more than anyone realized. After Mama's Family ended, Vicki launched her own talk show in 1992. It looked like the next chapter was beginning. It wasn't. The show was canceled after creative battles with her network, and then she was fired. She has said openly she hit a complete brick wall in her 40s. I went into depression for 3 years. 3 years of darkness nobody saw coming from the woman who spent decades making everyone else laugh. Nobody was asking if she was okay. Vicki Lawrence is 76 years old today. In 2024, she lost her husband Al of 50 years, and carries that grief the same way she carried everything else, quietly and without complaint. And the next star played her son on screen, but the real-life story of what he quietly endured as a father will stay with you long after this video ends. Ken Berry as Vinton Harper. Born on November 3, 1933 in Moline, Illinois, and just 50 years old when the show began, Ken Berry built his entire career on warmth.
Who's down there?
Oh, it's only me, Mama.
He could dance, he could sing, he could make a room feel safe just by walking into it. He served in the Army, won a talent competition, and got himself onto the Ed Sullivan Show before most people even knew his name existed. On screen, Vinton Harper was bumbling and clueless, but completely lovable. The kind of man you root for even when he gets everything wrong. What audiences saw was a man who made fatherhood look like the warmest, safest place on earth. Off-screen, Ken married actress Jackie Joseph, and together they had 2 children, a daughter Jennifer and a son John. The marriage ended, but their bond never truly did, the kind of closeness most divorced couples never managed to hold on to. And then, in 2016, his son John was diagnosed with brain cancer. Ken Berry, the man who played television's most lovable father for 7 years, watched his own child lose that fight. John died that year. 2 years later, in December 2018, Ken himself was gone at 85. It was Jackie, his ex-wife, who told the world on Facebook, "With very deep sorrow, I must inform friends of Ken Berry that he died a short time ago." Ken Berry was 85 years old, a man who made warmth look effortless on screen, and needed every ounce of it just to survive what life handed him off it. And the woman who played his wife on screen was carrying her own private loss, one that hit years after the cameras stopped and nobody ever saw coming. Dorothy Lyman as Naomi Oates Harper. Born on April 18, 1947 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and just 36 years old when the show began,
some things are done in the privacy of our bedroom.
I know.
Dorothy Lyman walked onto the Mama's Family set while simultaneously still appearing on All My Children. She was shooting 2 completely different shows at the same time in 2 completely different genres. Most actors can barely handle one. Dorothy handled both without missing a beat. On screen, Naomi was loud, flashy, big hair, even bigger personality. The kind of woman who walked into a room and immediately owned every corner of it. She made the show twice as fun. What audiences didn't see was a woman privately navigating a life getting more complicated by the year. She married twice. Her second husband, Vincent Mal, was a French film producer, and together they built a life that genuinely seemed to work. Then, in 2001, they divorced. And then 10 years later, in November 2011, Vincent died suddenly from an embolism in Paris. No warning. The man she had built a family with was just gone. Dorothy was left carrying that grief alone while the world still only remembered her as the big-haired, funny woman from a sitcom.
Naomi, see that this obituary gets printed in the paper verbatim.
Okay. Except, Miss Harper, you don't wear a size 4 dress.
Just shut up and print it.
Dorothy Lyman is 77 years old today. 2 marriages, 1 devastating loss, a Hollywood career, and enough self-knowledge to walk away and find something real on the other side. And the next star's exit from this show was bizarre, because the writers killed her character off-screen with a toothpick. Rue McClanahan as Aunt Fran Crowley. Born on February 21, 1934 in Healdton, Oklahoma, and just 49 years old when the show began.
Well, I would love to stay and watch, but I'm sure I can catch it later on Family Feud.
Rue McClanahan came from a tiny Oklahoma town that had no idea it was producing one of television's most magnetic personalities. From the moment she stepped on screen as Aunt Fran, she owned every single scene she walked into. When the Golden Girls came calling and Rue had to leave, the writers needed to write her character out. What they decided was, Aunt Fran died off screen by choking to death on a toothpick. A toothpick. No farewell episode, no proper goodbye, just a toothpick. The absurdity of it almost matches the absurdity of what real life then handed her, because Rue's final years were a chain of health disasters nobody should have to live through. Breast cancer, 1997. Triple bypass heart surgery, 2009. A stroke while still recovering. And then in June 2010, a brain hemorrhage took her at 76. What makes her story feel genuinely unfair is this. She was married 6 times, divorced 5. She lived louder and more unapologetically than almost anyone in Hollywood, and her body kept fighting her from the inside while she kept showing up and performing anyway. Rue McClanahan was 76 years old. She lived a life so dramatic it made her characters look understated, and never apologized for a single second of any of it. And the woman who worked beside her and loved her like a true friend. What Betty White whispered with her very last breath will stop you completely. Betty White as Ellen Harper. Born on January 17, 1922 in Oak Park, Illinois, and already 61 years old when the show began, Betty White had lived an entire legendary career before most of her Mama's Family co-stars had even started theirs. She was the first woman to produce a sitcom in television history. Working in television since the 1940s, she had seen everything, and none of it made her bitter or hard. That warmth was completely real. The story living underneath all the laughter is about Alan Ludden. Betty was married 3 times. The first 2 she called dress rehearsals. The third time, Alan, was the only one that ever truly mattered. He proposed twice before she said yes. She told Oprah she wasted a whole year they could have had together by saying no the first time. They had 18 years. Then in 1981, Alan died of stomach cancer. Betty never remarried, not once, for 40 years. When people asked why she always answered the same way, when you've had the best, who needs the rest? On December 31st, 2021, she was gone. A stroke 6 days before she died, just 17 days from her 100th birthday. Her assistant was with her at the very end. And according to Vicki Lawrence, who heard it from Carol Burnett, the very last word Betty White ever spoke was Alan. Betty White was 99 years old. 40 years after losing him, his name was still the last thing on her lips. And the 2 kids were erased from the show without a single goodbye. And what one of them did after leaving Hollywood will genuinely shock you. Eric Brown as Buzz Harper. Born on December 17, 1964 in New York City, and just 19 years old when the show began, Eric Brown had already been acting since he was 10 years old. By the time he walked onto the Mama's Family set as Buzz Harper,
Ever since your mother and I got a divorce, I've been,
Needing the company of a woman?
the rebellious teenage son with a good heart underneath all the trouble. He had been working in Hollywood for nearly a decade. But here is what happened next, and this is the part nobody talks about. When the show was canceled by NBC and relaunched in syndication, the producers made a decision. Buzz and Sonia, core members of the Harper family from the very beginning, were simply written out. No farewell episode, no emotional goodbye. Mentioned once in the season 3 premiere and then never spoken of again. 2 cast members who helped build the show just quietly erased. Eric walked away from Hollywood entirely. And what he built instead is one of the most surprising second acts on this entire list. He earned a degree in political science from UC Berkeley, graduating Phi Beta Kappa, one of the highest academic honors in America. Then a master's from Stanford, where his research focused on politics in Rwanda. He became press secretary and speechwriter for a U.S. congresswoman and produced hundreds of political ads for U.S. Senate campaigns. Eric Brown is 61 years old today. The teenager who played a lovable troublemaker became one of the most academically accomplished people the entire cast ever produced, and almost nobody knows it. And the girl who played his sister was written out that same day, and her story is one of the most quietly powerful on this entire list. Karen Argud as Sonia Harper. Born on November 8, 1960 in the United States and just 23 years old when the show began,
Daddy married Naomi, and the four of us moved to Arizona to live in our own mobile home park.
Whatever turns you on. It was nothing.
Karen Argud had already been working in television since she was a teenager, appearing in Quincy, M.E., and various productions before Mama's Family gave her the most visible role of her career. As Sonia Harper, she played the eye-rolling, slightly dramatic teenage daughter who secretly cared about her family more than she ever admitted out loud. And then the show got canceled by NBC. When it came back in syndication, Karen received the same treatment Eric Brown did. Her character was simply gone. No explanation, no closure. Just a brief mention that Sonia had gone off to college, and then complete silence for the rest of the show's run. 2 seasons of building a character inside a family, erased without a single scene to say goodbye. What Karen did next is genuinely worth paying attention to. She didn't chase the spotlight. She moved behind the camera and became a director, working on Darkroom and Nash Bridges, building a real career on the production side that most audiences never see. She married cinematographer Kevin Morrissey, and together they raised 2 children completely away from the chaos of Hollywood fame. Karen Argud is 64 years old today. Written out without ceremony, she built something quieter and more lasting on the other side of the camera, and never looked back once. And the next star didn't just lose her role on this show. She lost the legal right to her own character because of a divorce. And the daughter she raised through addiction died at just 38 years old. Carol Burnett as Eunice Higgins. Born on April 26, 1933 in San Antonio, Texas, and just 50 years old when the show began, Carol Burnett grew up in a single-room apartment with her grandmother. Her parents were both alcoholics who divorced and left her behind. Her grandmother was on welfare, so desperate that she stole silverware from neighbors just so they would have utensils to eat with. Carol turned all of that pain into comedy because it was the only escape she could find. On screen, audiences saw Eunice, explosive, emotional, dramatic, and laughed at every scene. They had no idea how much of Carol's real life was sitting inside that character. The story most people never fully heard is about Carrie. Carol's eldest daughter started drinking and using drugs at just 13 years old. Carol spent years asking herself, was I not strong enough? What did I do wrong? Carrie eventually got sober, became an actress, a playwright. She and Carol even wrote a play together called Hollywood Arms about their own complicated relationship. And then in January 2002, Carrie was diagnosed with lung cancer that had spread to her brain. She was 38 years old. She died before the play ever properly reached the audience it deserved. Carol Burnett is 92 years old today, a woman who turned a welfare childhood into television legend, and watched her own daughter's story end too early and blamed herself for every year of it. The next star made the whole world laugh his entire career, then admitted he was never truly happy after leaving the one place he belonged. Harvey Korman as Alistair Quince. Born on February 15, 1927 in Chicago, Illinois, and already 56 years old when the show began, Harvey Korman originally wanted to be a serious, dramatic actor. He studied at the Goodman School of Drama, served in the Navy during World War II, then tried Broadway and nightclubs and failed hard enough that he supported himself as a restaurant cashier just to survive. And then comedy found him, and he was so gifted at it the entire industry came running. On screen, he played Alistair Quince, the pompous British theater director dripping with snobbery, brilliantly in every scene. 4 Emmy Awards, Blazing Saddles, a decade on The Carol Burnett Show as one of the most beloved comedy performers on television. Then, in 1977, he made a decision that haunted the rest of his life. He left Carol Burnett's show to launch his own series, and his marriage of 17 years ended that exact same year. He lost both anchors simultaneously. The Harvey Korman Show lasted 1 season and disappeared. He tried to stand alone 3 times and failed 3 times. At the very end, after a brain tumor operation in early 2008, he was back in hospital within a day with a ruptured aneurysm. Doctors gave him hours to live. He survived 4 more months. His daughter said he fought until the very end. Harvey Korman was 81 years old, a man who admitted he was never truly happy after leaving Carol Burnett, and then fought with everything he had to stay alive anyway. And the next person went from a fatherless childhood to driving taxis in New York, before becoming one of the most iconic characters in science fiction history, Brent Spiner as Billy Bob Conroy. Born on February 2, 1949 in Houston, Texas, and just 34 years old when the show began, Brent Spiner lost his father Jack to kidney failure when he was just 10 months old. He never had a single memory of the man whose name he was born with. His mother remarried, and Brent took his stepfather's last name and carried it for 20 years before quietly reclaiming Spiner in 1975. That act of reclaiming his own name tells you everything about who this man really is. Before any fame, he drove cabs in New York City between auditions. He performed off-Broadway in productions nobody outside a few Manhattan streets ever saw. No safety net, no father to call, no family money, just the decision to keep going because stopping meant admitting who he was wasn't enough. Mama's Family gave him his first real television visibility, playing Billy Bob Conroy, a sweet, bumbling, lovable mess who meant well and got everything wrong. Then Star Trek: The Next Generation happened in 1987 and everything changed. Data, an android spending 7 seasons trying to understand what it means to be human, became one of the most beloved characters in television history. A man who spent his life searching for his own identity played a character whose entire journey was about discovering where he belonged. Brent Spiner is 77 years old today. From a fatherless beginning to New York cabs to Mama's Family to the stars, one of the most remarkable journeys this entire list has to offer. 7 years of laughter, 12 stories of real life happening behind the cameras. These weren't just actors playing a dysfunctional family. Many of them were quietly living through things that would break most people. Children lost, identities reclaimed, decades of grief carried in silence, stars erased without a single goodbye. They showed up anyway, every single time. Drop a comment telling me which story hit you the hardest. And if you want more real stories behind the shows that defined your childhood, you already know what to do.